When it comes to farming the jungle in Deadlock, one of the biggest questions I see is around jungle pathing. If you've ever played League of Legends or Dota 2, you'll be familiar with this term, but essentially we're looking to take the most amount of jungle farm in the least amount of time. In this video, I'm going to take you through the most efficient jungle routes, as well as just some general jungle tips that should help you in your games. My name is Drongo, this is your Deadlock, let's get to it. When it comes to farming the jungle in Deadlock, it's important to remember that it's not static like League of Legends. In League of Legends, there's typically a single jungler on the team who is going to take the majority of the jungle farm. The difference with Deadlock is that everybody is entitled to take the farm in the jungle. So naturally, we need to play around this, and more importantly, we need to take advantage of this. To start us off, let's just go through some basics. The tier 1 jungle camps spawn at 2 minutes into the game. Because these jungle camps have got such a short respawn timer, which is 4 minutes, and they're only netting around 150 souls each time you take them out, we're going to avoid talking about these today, focusing instead on the higher net worth camps. The key timing that we're going to be looking for here are the 7 minutes and 10 minute timings. At 7 minutes, the tier 2 and the tier 3 jungle camps spawn. At 10 minutes, the slot machines spawn. When it comes to maximizing our farm in the early game, irrespective of the hero that we're playing, we need to focus on the jungle. That doesn't mean we completely ignore our lane, that just means that we turn our priority to the jungle. While the map is symmetrical, it's important to remember that the lanes are not. Because the map will sometimes reverse the colors, we're going to avoid talking about the color of specific lanes and instead just talk to their positions. Depending on which lane you're playing in is going to depend on your most efficient jungle path. As an example, if you're playing on the right-hand side, it doesn't really make sense coming over to the left-hand side to farm the jungle camp and then go back over to the right-hand side to defend your tower. So instead, we formulate different paths depending on our location. In the game that we'll be looking at today, it's played from the left-hand side, but we'll still be talking about options that you'll have on the right-hand side, as well as throughout the late game. The lane was once again against a Lash, and it ended up being quite an even lane. However, if we take a look at the souls per minute, you'll see that it is a vastly different story. Let's take a look at how we break away in this game just by using a couple of simple timings. So we dive into the game here quite early. At 6 minutes 30 in, we've got about a 400 soul lead on our opponent. We've managed to take out the T1 Guardian. The 6 minute 30 timing is incredibly important because this is our prep stage before the 7 minute jungle spawn. During this time, we have to commit to killing the last trooper wave, which, keep in mind, spawn twice every minute, every 30 seconds. We then have to go back and shop, and then we have to make it to our jungle camp. We also maximize our efficiency by using advanced movement techniques like jumping up and then immediately off the zipline so that we can get a nice little movement speed dash. We also make sure that we do a jump dash as well when we're going between the camps, just because it'll help us get there a little bit quicker. So let's take a look at this first route, what it looks like, and how fast we can do it on 7. Please note that with other heroes, your farming time will be slower, and naturally that means that your lane state when you return to your lane is not going to be as favorable. So we start off by using our cooldowns immediately, our lightning bolt as well as our power surge. That's going to mean that the sooner we use them, the sooner they're off cooldown. We move on to the tier 1 jungle camp. If it wasn't here, we'd just move on, but because it is, we're going to take it. We make our way down to the basement, where we're going to pop our ultimate to clear this out as quickly as we can. You need to be careful when you ulti in the basement with 7, because sometimes you will accidentally line of sight a couple of the smaller jungle creeps. We then clean up the boxes and the statues, and then finally we head back upstairs to take out the last tier 2 jungle camp. At this point, I could make the decision to head back to my lane, but unfortunately make the decision to miss my lightning ball and subsequently spend quite a bit of time taking out this tier 2 jungle camp. If you don't miss the lightning ball, there's a good chance this route will take you about 40 seconds on 7 early on in the game. And depending on how well you're doing in your lane, as well as the hero that you're facing off against, will depend on whether they're going to be able to push and take your tower, or whether you're going to be able to come back in time to defend it. Fortunately, in this game, I left my lane with the Guardian at full health, which meant by the time I came back, it was only sitting at around half health. Even if the Guardian does go down, in my opinion, this isn't a huge issue, and instead works out as a positive, because it means that we've got A, more space for the troopers to accumulate, meaning that you're going to be farming them faster, more efficiently, and B, it means that your enemy is most likely going to leave the lane and go do their own things. Maybe that's jungling on their side of the map. And this subsequently means that you can also look to push their tower, or just reduces your risk in general. The second jungle route that you'll be running before 10 minutes involves the 2 jungle camps that are sitting right at the back of the map. When it comes to taking these camps, we'll be looking for a balanced approach that ensures we keep our T1 Guardian alive if it is alive. This will mean that just like at the 6:30 mark, we'll be looking to push out the troopers as cleanly as we possibly can, and then make our way towards those jungle camps. Depending on how aggressive your opponent is playing will depend on whether you can take one of these camps, or whether you can take 2 or even 3 of them. In this game, the enemy lash pushed up the troopers pretty early on after I pushed them out, and naturally it meant we could only take one out of those 3 camps. We need to be cautious on going back for seconds with this route because we are getting awfully close to that 10-minute timing. And we want to make sure we set ourselves up for success as much as we can on that timing. And now picking up at 9 minutes 40 into the game, we've managed to build quite a soul lead over our opponent with a 2,000 soul lead early on in this game. We look to clear out our lane and then get into position for the 10-minute mark. At the 10-minute mark, a lot of important things happen on the maps. The urns spawn, the buffs spawn, but most importantly, the slot machines spawn. These 2 slot machines, together with the tier 2 jungle guardian, are by far the highest value camp on the map. So the sooner that we secure it, the sooner it's going to respawn, as well as guarantee that our allies don't steal it away from us, or even worse, our enemies. After you take this slot machine camp, there's a number of options open to you. You can head back to your lane to deal with the troopers, or you can look to secure the buff. In this game, I look to secure the buff and notice that there is a helpless jungle camp on the opponent's side of the map. We get greedy and go after a second camp. We manage to secure an assist on the enemy Grey Talon, and that puts us at a comfy 11,000 souls, well and truly above anybody else in the game. That is how we establish this lead. Keep in mind that while we did these routes on the outer left lane, it is possible to do this on the inner left lane as well. The only difference is that we're reversing the routes. Now let's take a look at how to play the right-hand side. The jungle camps on the right-hand side aren't positioned as favorably as they are on the left-hand side. So depending on how well your lane is going will depend on what you want to do. If your lane is going well, you've pushed down the enemy T1 Guardian, maybe you've got a kill or 2, you can look to do the same route that you would do on the left side of the map, but just on the enemy's side of the map. However, if the lane is fair or you're losing the lane, it's definitely a better idea that you stay on your own side of the map. For the jungle route on the right side, I like to start at this specific tier 2 jungle camp, and if it's up, you can also extend this out to the level 1 jungle camp here. From there, you can return back to your lane, clear out any of the troopers that have made it towards your tower, and once you've got a bit of clearance, then you can look to take the cathedral. From here, the same route applies, heading towards the back of your lane. Depending on the aggression of the enemy hero will depend on whether you take 1, 2, or 3 of these camps, but just making sure that we're always returning back to defend the tower. At the 10-minute mark, we'll be making our way to the slot machines, and while this camp technically is worth less than the one over on the left-hand side of the map, it is still a very good camp to go after. If you're playing on the inner right lane, the same principle will apply to the same camps. The only difference is instead of going after the cathedral camp, you'll swap it with this camp. More broadly, just talking about the jungle, I would advise avoiding the 2 camps in the middle. It's not that they don't give a decent return, it's that this position is very exposed, and there is a high likelihood that an enemy will become aware of your movements and potentially call out for a gank. Of course, if the game is going well for you guys, then by all means go ahead and take them. When it comes to your mid-game route and your late-game route, these are a couple that I like to do. So you can start this on either the left outer lane or the right outer lane. We want to push the troopers up to the walker. That doesn't mean we have to go all the way up to the walker. That just means we have to kill all the enemy troopers up until that walker. We're going to fall back and we're going to look to take the tier 3 jungle camps. After taking the first one, we'll jump in the teleporter and head over to the other side. Before you do this, double check your minimap just to make sure that the coast is clear. Also note with this one that you are quite exposed when you're doing the jungle camp, so try and position yourself in a way where you can actually see towards where the enemy would be approaching. You can then combo this with the second mid-game route. Depending on what side you start on, it will depend on which camp you start, but if you're starting on the right side, then you'll go after the cathedral first. If you're starting on the left side, then you'll just start at the back camp. From here, you're just looking to flash farm every single tier 2 camp across the back line. You can also throw in the tier 3 jungle camps at the back, but these normally take a little bit longer, and I love to pop my zipline speed boost right as I'm starting. That way I can take the first set of camps on one side and then speed boost to the second side for the first camp there. I want to emphasize how important this last point is. If a trooper dies to a walker, it's gone forever. But those jungle camps are still going to be there once you clear the walker. So if you're halfway through doing a route and you spot a walker that's under attack with no one there to defend it, at the very least, head over to the walker, clear out the troopers that are there, and then continue on with your route. Not only does this preserve the walker, but when it comes to cost efficiency, killing troopers that are all stacked up on top of each other like that is the most efficient way to farm souls in the game. The last thing we're going to be talking about are items. It's a great idea when you're heading into the jungle to pick up a couple of items just to make your time in there a bit easier, and nothing is going to make your time easier in there than monster rounds. It is an incredible item, great base stats, but more importantly, just provides that extra little bit of bonus damage towards the jungle camps. Next item is going to be focused around your health. It's important to keep your health high, and if you're focused around your gun, active reload is going to be amazing for you, providing that conditional bullet lifesteal. But if you're more focused, on using your spirit to kill the jungle camps, I will recommend Spirit Lifesteal. This is an incredibly core item for a lot of spirit users when you're focused on the jungle. You want to try and pick this bad boy up early just to keep that health pool nice and high. But if you don't want to fork out the 1250 for it, you can still go with something like Enduring Spirit, which is only 500. The final thing to note is that when you're in the jungle, there's a good chance you're probably going to run short on ammo, so you can look for things like Quicksilver Reload for heroes like Haze, or Active Reload once again, just to help out with clearing those camps. Hopefully you've been able to take something away from this video. If you've enjoyed the video, please go ahead and leave a like on the video. If you disagreed with anything, feel free to leave a comment. But most importantly, if you'd like to see more Deadlock content in the future, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I've been Drongo. This has been your Deadlock. Thank you for watching.